Shot number one. Yo, what's going on? In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Olympus XA. It is without a doubt one of my favorite cameras that I've ever had the pleasure of owning. It is a point and shoot rangefinder camera, which is pretty rare. I don't know of many other cameras that are point and shoot style but also have the rangefinder. It is also aperture priority. You can select different apertures all the way up to 2.8 down to I think f22. Yeah, it just slides open like that. Personally, one of the main things that drew me to this camera was the rangefinder system. I personally really like to dial in the focus. I've never really used an autofocus system. I mainly just trust my eye more than anything. Yeah, I really like that, and that combined with the wide aperture means you can really dial in the sharpness, and it's a really sharp lens. It's a 35mm f2.8. I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure. The f2.8 lens is really sharp. I really love it. The big problem with the lens that I've seen, it might not be a big problem for some of you, but for me, I really don't like how the bokeh can come across sometimes. It has this sort of like diamond shape bokeh if you're, I'm not sure specifically, but around like f4 or like f5.6 in kind of specific scenarios where you're not quite full open, because wide open you can sort of start to blur around the edges of the diamond and it looks more natural. But in some of these examples that I'm showing on the screen now, you can tell that it's not exactly my personal thing. You might like it, but just something that definitely needs to be noted. One of my absolute favorite things, it took a second to get used to, but the cover. There's some nice grooves up top, so you can grip it with your finger, open it from the top. That's always what I recommend. A lot of people I've seen, when they handle these, they try to just kind of claw at it from the front and like rip it open. But I think the mechanism is clearly designed, so you just need to go like that. The opening of the clamshell is actually what activates the power. So as soon as it hits that switch right there, it'll turn on. One thing I also love is this is the American version, so it shows distance in feet, so you can quite easily zone focus right here if you don't feel like using the rangefinder. Nice little handy red shutter there, which is something to note. The shutter button is very sensitive, but obviously it can't be pressed when the camera is closed. This is where the rangefinder view comes in. You can actually watch it slide open. One thing I absolutely love about this camera is if you look through the viewfinder, it actually shows you a preview of the shutter that it's going to choose. So if I cover my hand here, see it goes way down. I really love that it tells you what shutter it's going at, so that you can see, you know, will this be enough just handheld, and will I be able to take this shot? But if you say you're taking a photo of someone in front of a backlit situation, they do have backlight compensation down at the bottom. Actually a very wonderful setup here. So we've got backlight compensation there, plus 1.5 stops. You have this wonderful little noise for the battery check, and you have a self-timer. And I've used the self-timer quite a few times. Funny thing to note is that this thing sticking out actually helps to stabilize the camera when you set it down on a flat surface. I just love the attention to detail with everything in this camera. It's beautiful, beautiful, complete piece of machinery. also see the light up with the battery check. The frame counter is very clear and easy to see, and I love that. This camera that I got was actually CLA'd, which if you don't know means cleaned, lubricated, and adjusted before sending it out to me. So I pretty much got like a full unboxing experience. It was my first time getting a film camera this clean, and I do not regret it, and I probably will not be getting rid of this camera anytime in my lifetime. I love the overall design and the metal design. It just feels like one piece of solid metal, and just quality. Like it has a heft to it. It doesn't feel plasticky. It's just such a wonderful camera. I do love how manual this camera is. There is no DX code readings, which in my opinion is a good thing, because it's a common theme. I don't like my camera making decisions for me. You might be different, but right down here you can is actually where you select your ISO, and that's super lovely, because if you need more exposure compensation, then they give you down here, or you just want to push film, whatever you want to do, push or pull. So I've been talking a little bit about the pros about this camera, the things that I really love. I'm going to get into some of the things that I don't exactly love. And the number one thing, my least favorite thing about this camera, is the flash. So there is a flash that I bought with this camera. It's a separate flash. It attaches to the side. You screw it on. I just cannot seem to have much luck with it. I don't have any other battery issues. I don't think I've changed batteries once in this camera the entire time that I've had it, which is like 2 years. So that's really amazing, like no battery issues. But with the flash, I cannot get it to work consistently. When I first got the camera, I got it to work a few times, but right out of the box, it was noticeably very, very slow. It just takes such a long time to load the flash. The process is you plug it into the side, go over here, set it into flash mode, and then you set it down and you wait until the next day, because that's how long it takes, and it might not ever do it. Like in doing this joke for the video, I just wanted to see if I left it for a whole day, would it even do it? And I realized that I guess my flash is fully broken now, because I left it a full day and it didn't go. I even changed the batteries before doing it. So yeah, that is the major issue. And just to make sure it wasn't just my camera, I actually double checked with my friend Peter, and he has the same issue. He has an Olympus XA, and he told me that the flash is just really slow, so be prepared for that. This isn't a very good camera if you're looking to get into more flash stuff. So I've actually found myself carrying around little Yashica MF1 or other disposable camera, because this, we'd even do a live test right now. Just turned it on, and we're good to go. I don't see why it's that hard, but just one of the downsides with this camera. So, but I kind of low-key do recommend this. It's just easy for like party photos and stuff. The second con that I want to get into, I already talked about it, the bokeh. So if you can see in there, the aperture is actually a square, and so the bokeh will come across as like that diamond shape, and the lens is also clearly compacted. They had to do some kind of wizardry to get it into this form factor. So I don't blame them, but it is definitely perfect for just that like to infinity like shot. If you need to get pictures of clouds or landscapes, it's perfect for that. But I would still reach for something like my SLR, my other rangefinder to for portraits and stuff like that. But it is good in a pinch. Speaking of the lens, though, one of the main issues with this lens that is actually starting to kind of get on my nerves is the vignetting. I didn't really have a problem with vignetting until I started noticing it more and more, and now it's just like really noticeable, but it can be fixed, you know, in post. But that's a lot of work, and I'm lazy. And one of the only other things what? And then I have seen it, and it has been said that the shutter button on this camera can be a little too sensitive. And I get that, you know, as soon as you open the camera, it feels like almost like an iPhone touchscreen. Like as soon as you touch it, it goes off. So you definitely want to be careful whenever you're composing your shot, focusing. You have to do the hover. But I haven't really had a problem. I'm trying to think because I kind of do it mindlessly. But yeah, I'll usually do that and then bring the finger down when I'm ready. So, but some people do have a problem with that, just accidentally firing it off a shot when you don't mean to, and I can see that being a problem. But actually, since owning this camera, I have never once made that mistake to my knowledge. So, and the last thing is just that I've noticed it can be a little easier when you're taking portrait mode photos, but it feels really awkward to reach the focusing patch. I'm going to do the photographer sideways hat. I don't know, it's hard to find where it is without looking, without being able to see it, and so when you're in here you kind of have to fumble around and then you're like, oh, there it is. But, you know, it's recessed, so it's not the worst thing in the world, which is why I like just mention it at the end. But the rangefinder information and everything that lights up in the viewfinder is super light. It is super bright, excuse me. You can really see what you're doing. So in my hunt for the Olympus XA, I accidentally bought the Olympus XA2 first. And the reason is because I thought, you know, it's the sequel, so it's got to be better, right? Not the case.
It's the weirdest thing. Olympus was like, oh yeah, here's the XA. And everyone's like, yes! And they're like, guess what? We're going to make a shittier version.
Ended up not being the camera I wanted whatsoever. Because you can see off the bat, the XA2 is fully automatic exposure. And it has zone focusing. Only has a f3.5 lens. Something else to note, on the bottom, you can see on the XA here, you do have that plus 1.5 stops exposure compensation. On the XA2, you do not. I don't know if you can notice the slight difference in shutter buttons there. One of them is a little more recessed. So yeah, once again, on the left here, we have the original Olympus XA, and in my opinion, this is the best XA. It is the only XA with rangefinder and aperture priority. The XA2 is zone focusing, does not have a rangefinder, and it is fully automatic exposure. It'll pick your aperture and your shutter for you. And if you're interested, they did actually make 4 other models of this camera. The Olympus XA1, XA2, XA3, and Olympus XA4. The Olympus XA1 is an entirely different camera from the Olympus XA. The Olympus XA1 is a fully mechanical camera, as far as I understand it. I haven't used it, but the Olympus XA2, we discussed, is right here, zone focusing, auto exposure. And I do know that the XA3 and XA4 are zone focusing as well. And just in case you were wondering what the process is for loading this, you start by taking the winder tab and you kind of just pull it up, and that'll in itself open the back and basically just put your roll in, and you do have to kind of fit the end of the film into that spool, but once it's in there, I haven't had trouble with it letting go or disconnecting like other cameras that I use. And then you just close the back and wind it up. The winder is nice and smooth. I like it. It's kind of like in between a smooth SLR and a plastic camera, you know. It feels smooth, but it still has it has some nice clicks, some aesthetic clicks. And just like that, you're all ready to go out on the town and shoot some photos. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I hope you are interested, know a little bit more about this beautiful camera, beautiful piece of history. I would recommend a video from the channel Analog Insights. They did a great breakdown on the history of the camera. If you want to let me know what your favorite point-and-shoot camera is, a 35mm point-and-shoot camera or otherwise, let me know in the comments below. But thank you for tagging along, and I hope to see you in the next video.